Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Brumfield, and I am the Colorado School of Public Health Career Services Specialist. And today I'm talking with Lauren Miller. Lauren graduated from our school in 2016 with her MPH in Epidemiology. And thank you for joining us, Lauren.
Sure. Thank you for having me on.
I'm really excited to learn about your career and any advice you have for our current or prospective students. Can you please start off by telling us what's your current job title and where do you work?
Sure. So I am a principal microbiologist in sterilization, working at Medtronic, which is a healthcare technology medical device company.
How long have you been working at Medtronic?
I've actually been with Medtronic for 9 years, although I've been in my current role for a year. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
And what is a typical day in your position like?
Sure. Yeah, the cliche, like there's no such thing as a typical day, but in general, so my role is fully remote, although there is some travel when we can. But I'd say about, I don't know, a third to a half of my day is spent in kind of teamwork type meetings, both with my immediate team members. I'm part of an enterprise operational excellence team focused on the sterilization optimization for our medical devices, which is a mouthful.
Yeah.
But about a third to half the time is spent directly working with my teammates and with a broader organization. And then the other part of my day is data analysis and report writing. So, yeah.
So a lot of on the computer.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first started at the company, I was much more the bench microbiologist, and now my role is part of being fully remote is that, but also just at the level that we're working within the business, it's a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of pulling data from one place to another. Yeah, which is sort of really the big one that probably ties in most of my degree. Really is the number crunching, the data analysis. So.
And what systems do you use the most in your job?
Honestly, it's a lot of Excel.
Yeah.
Yep. We've had a few other programs that we've used. Sadly, never got to use the SAS that I got so good at, but yeah, it's probably mostly Excel, but being able to try to figure out how to do some of the things that we did in SAS or R, being able to figure out how to do those in Excel has been kind of a fun challenge. Being able to run a regression in Excel is cool. But yeah, because a lot of it's just so, our data, they're not necessarily people. It's a lot more data coming off whatever study we're working on, but a lot of the analysis is not all that different. So it's been great to be able to use a lot of the stat skills that I got from doing the epi degree. But then also another big part of that is reporting. And I have a couple different levels of reporting, right? So I literally write reports that summarize what I'm doing, but also being able to report out to my broader organization. Most of the folks who I work with are not technical microbiology sterilization folks. I feel like a good part of the public health degree helped me figure out how to communicate effectively with folks without necessarily having to dive into the minutia all the time. Like, what is the overall takeaway? What is important and what's going to matter to people, and being able to do that effectively. When you're talking to a vice president of operations who doesn't know anything about what you do, how do you do that quickly and effectively while making your point?
Yeah, that's huge in public health, is communicating or translating, but communication skills. I mean, I think I see that on every job posting. Strong communication skills is,
it's important.
The most important thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So you write these reports for internal and external stakeholders, or is it mostly internal?
Well, so they're internal reports in that they're summarizing the data of the validation that we're working on. But they go external because we have to submit our data to like the FDA, different notified bodies for like the European Union and all the Health Canada, all the different countries that we work with. So they are they're not public facing, but they do go to various different governments and notified bodies for review, so they can approve what we're working on or send it back with questions.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
What are some challenges you've had to face in your current job?
Let's see. Trying to think of I mean, obviously there's always challenges, but I mean, definitely kind of going back to the communication, but
Yeah.
making it clear why this program is important. So historically, sterilization of medical devices has not always been the most exciting thing for a business to do. And actually, in the past few years, the sterilization method that I work with most is ethylene oxide. And there have been some challenges with the EPA with some of the sterilization sites. And so actually the focus of our program is to optimize our sterilization. And part of that is a business, make it better. The numbers with dollar signs work out better, but also to decrease our ethylene oxide usage. Because so we're trying to meet any potential new EPA or FDA requirements, trying to cut that down. So we're going from, levels of, so this will mean nothing, but 700 milligrams per liter of EO and bring it down to more like 350. So we're essentially up to halving our EO usage, which is just, it's better from the sterilization process perspective because there's less gas going in, and then so much less that has to then come back out and has to be cleaned or scrubbed in this, to make sure it's not going into the environment. So if you're using less of it, it's and that's actually a big priority for our business now. And I think people are starting to get that, but it's kind of interesting to finally see where sort of the scientific problem met the business problem. And that's sort of where my project is. So
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, but it sounds really cool. Did you have all this knowledge of this stuff beforehand?
Not when I first started the job 9 years ago. So like I said, I started in the lab, but it was a lot of sterilization too. And I had a degree in biology, and then while I was actually working there, I got my master's in epi. But these are skills that I acquired the technical knowledge by being hands-on, and then by the with my degree being able to sort of expand upon or expound, I guess, upon what I was already learning and try to
well, and I feel like bringing in that epi lens is really useful.
Yeah, because I work with a lot of engineering folks who are very focused on much smaller scale things, and being able to, with epi, I think you think a little bit bigger, right? You're thinking more at a population level, even if your population is a bunch of medical devices instead of people, it's still being able to take a step back and look at a somewhat bigger picture than just what is right here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What would you say is your biggest achievement thus far in this role?
Oh gosh.
Or something that's really cool that you've been a part of. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge.
No, I mean, honestly, it's being able to get some of these cycles validated. So, like I mentioned, we're going from 700 to 350, but being able to still sterilize a medical device. So we had a set way we used to do something. We said, we're going to use half the amount of gas and still be able to show that we can actually sterilize these medical devices, to have these studies passing and working has been actually pretty exciting, because I wasn't really sure if it works. It's kind of a crazy idea to say, take something that works and then use half of what you were using and still get the same result.
Yeah, true.
But that's been a pretty good achievement, because it brought together a lot of different parts of our business and a lot of different people in order to be able to do that. And then to have the math actually work out was really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. So a lot of collaborating.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been impressed with this role that I mentioned I've been in for a year, just how many different types of folks that we have involved. It's project managers, regulatory affairs professionals, the product engineering folks, of course, and then the scientists.
Very interdisciplinary.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you the only one on the team with an MPH? Or
yes, although my director did mention that she's like, oh, you have an MPH, you should tell me more about that, because I kind of would like to get one, because she's coming at it kind of from more the environmental health background. That's what interested her in the project, actually, was since we are trying to release less ethylene oxide and make these safer for the people living in the areas, as well as making them not safer for the patients, but easier to get to the safe level for the patients.
Yeah.
That's funny. She asked me about that, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So, but I'm
That's
the only one
awesome.
specifically on our team with an MPH now. Yeah.
That's really cool. I bet you bring a lot of value though to the
I hope so.
interdisciplinary team. Yeah, absolutely. What would you say while you were a student really helped you prepare you for this role you're in? Was it a class or something you did, like your practicum or something like that?
Probably a few of the classes.
Mhm.
I know I keep saying the math, right? But it really helped drill home some of the stats stuff that maybe I missed in undergrad.
Mhm.
There's also I took a class on sort of like how to set up a database and how what type of data you want to collect. And this is actually going back to my previous role, still at the same company, but we used what's called the Laboratory Information Management System, or a LIMS system.
Okay.
And I actually ended up doing quite a bit of the setup there for someone who's not really a computer person. Because a lot of it was saying, we have these types of data. What is it we actually want to collect, need to collect? And then how can we spit that back out in a report that actually means something to people? And it actually was kind of like one of it was sort of a database data biostatistics class that I took, that it just it sort of clicked at the time, and it really, I feel like helped me set up a lot of these templates for how we wanted to input the data, and then what we wanted when it printed out, or whatever the output was. So
Cool.
yeah.
That's awesome. What did you do for your practicum when you were a student?
I worked at CDPHE, and I worked on infectious diseases, which was still where I was trying to cross over with the micro stuff. I did my capstone on West Nile, but I collected a bunch of data on a whole bunch of, I got to excite everyone I knew with tales of the plague and tick-borne diseases. So yeah, I mean, but really a lot of it was the same sort of idea of data collection, making sure that you're collecting the right thing to answer the question that you want to answer at the end of the day, regardless of whether or not it's how many people got the plague this year, or how many plates grew in your study,
Yeah.
So,
so you don't have the typical epi career path that you would think about.
No.
But it does sound like you're using a lot of your skills and epidemiology in your job.
I try to as much as possible. Yeah. The epi, and I took quite a few classes in environmental health too, and trying to find where those cross over.
Yeah. I'm always trying to help people talk about that, how transferable your degree is. And I think what you're doing is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. And I mean, even just, so much is moving towards coding and being able to understand big data. And I feel like even if you don't work with cases or people, again, being able to think critically about data, how you want to collect data, what sort of analysis you want to do, and being able to think about that in real time, and how you might want to then output that. I think that's probably one of the most useful things I just got conceptually out of my epi degree.
Yeah.
And definitely in terms of like forward looking things, I feel like that idea comes up often.
When you were in school getting your MPH, did you have a career goal in mind? Like, did you say, I want to do this, I want to work here? Like, and then has that changed?
Yeah, I was going to work at the CDC.
Yeah.
And yep. I didn't terribly want to live in Atlanta at the time. I like living in Colorado, but I feel like part of it changed because at the time I was still working at the same company, but I was kind of looking to get out of it. And it was impressive to me how my role was able to change with my management. Folks, my boss knew that I got this degree, and was looking for ways for me to be able to use my skills. Can I take on this type of project? Can I be working on this sort of thing? I was promoted shortly after getting my degree. So that,
That's
I
great. That's
got to
awesome.
figure there's a correlation there. So,
Yeah.
and I found more and more ways to be able to work what I'm interested in into my role.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I find a lot of LEMs say, I thought I would be working in this area, but I'm actually working in this and I love it. And that's what I think is really cool about public health.
Yeah, for sure. You never know quite where you're going to go, but you will have gotten a lot of really useful skills.
Yeah, definitely. What advice do you have for anyone that's thinking about pursuing a career in public health, specifically if they want to do what you're doing? What advice or tips would you have for them?
Honestly, if you think you're interested, try the private industry thing. And I've got a number of friends who are in sort of academic type roles or government type roles who have asked me, like, how do you transition into this? How do you do this? And I think some of it's just saying, just because there's a bunch of jargon in here, look at the skills section. Do you know how to do what this is? Like, sure, you might not know whatever 3-letter acronym they have.
Yeah.
But, just jump in and you'd be surprised how transferable a lot of your skills would be. And that's usually the advice that I give to a lot of folks in similar type roles is, find the role that has the, if you feel like you're really good at SAS or you're really good at some type of analysis, look for a role that might have that in there and ignore all the silly stuff ahead of it.
Yeah.
Think about how your skills could transfer and give it a shot. I think it's easy to say, oh, I'm going to work for the government or I'm going to work for a research institute, because it's a pretty clear line, but there's other options out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing your career path with us and your current job. And I think it's really valuable information you gave today. And I hope everyone learned a lot about kind of that private industry, because it is, sometimes you just don't know if you can transfer into it, but you definitely can with a public health degree.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be excited to learn more about your career as it goes on. So stay in touch.
For sure.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.